Hello and welcome. In today's video, I bring you a fabulous bread. It's made with sourdough, but we're not using all-purpose flour. We're using spelt flour. This is going to be a pretty dense bread. It is not as airy and fluffy as when you use all-purpose white flour, but it is still pretty spongy, and we're going to be adding some delicious seed to make it a super special bread. And if you're new to my channel, another warm welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with others. And this is the spelt flour that I'll be using for this recipe. I don't have any affiliation with this company, but so far this flour is working really well for me. So I'll leave the link in the description below in case you're interested in this flour. Printed on the bag, the manufacturer has a little box with spelt benefits. It says it helps lower blood cholesterol, immune stimulating properties, better tolerated by people with allergies, easily assimilated and digested, and higher in protein, vitamin B, and amino acids. And these are the seeds that I'll be using. I have some sesame seeds, and none of these seeds are salted. Here I have some sunflower seeds that are roasted but not salted. These are roasted pumpkin seeds, and again, not salted. And finally, some whole flax seeds. But you can use any seeds combination that you want or no seeds at all. When I use flax seeds, I only use about a quarter cup for this particular recipe. I'll begin with half a cup of an active sourdough starter. I'll add water that is non-treated and non-chlorinated and at room temperature. Because I'm using a half a cup measurement, I'm going to do this 4 times, but just be aware that it's just 2 cups of water. Next, I'll add 3 teaspoons of non-iodized salt, 1/3 of a cup of raw honey. As you can see, my honey is beginning to crystallize because it has been sitting on the countertop for quite some time. And now I like to give it a little quick whisk. Next, I'll be adding the seeds, 3/4 of a cup of the pumpkin seeds, 3/4 of a cup of the sunflower seeds, 1/4 of a cup of sesame seeds, 1/4 of a cup of whole flax seeds. I'll be using a spatula to mix everything together. Now it is time to add the flour. Please make sure that you level the cup to avoid adding too much. And we're going to add 4 cups of the whole spelt flour. I'll be using the spatula again to mix everything as much as possible before I switch to my hand. Wet your hand lightly and then proceed to incorporate everything with your hand as much as you can. This is going to be a wet dough and also kind of sticky. After all the ingredients are well incorporated, we're going to cover the bowl with a plastic wrap and we're going to let it rest for about 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, wet your hand one more time and we're going to mix all that together. You're going to notice that this is not a very stretchy dough. We're going to cover it one more time with a plastic wrap and then let it rest for one more set of 45 minutes. Wet your hand and now we're going to fold the dough one last time. I like to grab the dough from the bottom and fold it towards the top. Now we're going to cover it with a plastic wrap, set it aside, and let it rest for about 8 to 10 hours. After about 10 hours, it's time to proof the bread. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of spelt flour on my countertop. I like to sprinkle my dough with a little bit of spelt flour. And now we're going to try to create some tension by pulling and tucking the dough. Because this is a little bit of a sticky dough, you're going to sprinkle a little bit of spelt flour to create a smooth surface on the dough. Just don't add too much, enough for the dough not to stick to the countertop. I like to flip my dough several times as I do the proofing. For this particular recipe, I'll be using a cast iron Dutch oven in the form of a loaf pan, and this one has a lid. It has to be a heavy lid. The sourdough bread needs to steam, otherwise it will not cook evenly and it can be raw inside. And I'll be leaving a link in the description below in case you're interested in a similar loaf pan made of cast iron. I like to line it with parchment paper to prevent the dough from sticking to the pan. Next, I'll be sprinkling the bottom with some spelt flour. I'm going to give the dough a little bit of a stretch on the countertop and then I'm going to roll it to form a log. And I'll be placing it inside the cast iron pan with the seam side down. Next, I'll sprinkle it with a little bit of spelt flour on top and on the sides. I'll be using a plastic wrap to cover it loosely. I'll be sticking the sides of the plastic wrap to the pan, but I'll keep the top a little bit loose so that my dough can breathe. And now I'm going to set it aside for about 8 to 10 more hours. For me, it's going to be overnight. It is the next morning, and I am going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And after 10 hours of fermentation, this is how my spelt dough looks like. I'll be using a lame to score the bread, but you can perfectly use a knife. Just make sure you don't push your bread down too much so it doesn't deflate. Don't forget to cover it with a heavy cast iron lid. And now we're going to place it in the preheated oven. We're going to be baking this bread for a total of 50 minutes. 40 minutes of those are going to be with the lid on and the last 10 minutes uncovered. It's been 40 minutes. Make sure you wear good mittens to remove the lid because it's going to be very hot. And finally, after 50 minutes of total baking time, this is our spelt bread. Please make sure that you're wearing your mittens to remove the bread off the cast iron pan. It's extremely hot. We're going to place the bread on top of a cooling rack and we're going to let it cool down completely before we slice it. Otherwise, it's going to be very crumbly. In addition to that, the bread is going to continue cooking inside. I like to wait at least 2 hours. I know it seems like a long time, but it's worth the wait. My bread has finally cooled down and it's time to slice it and taste it. My kitchen smells amazing. Look at this bread and look at the seeds inside. It is an amazing, tasty bread. It is still nice and spongy, but it is also a dense bread. And I want to show you a little trick that I like to do with the leftover bread, and also you can do it with a freshly baked bread. This is a leftover bread from 2 days ago, and you can see the new bread in the background. I'll be cutting it in half and placing it in the toaster, and I'll be using the highest setting possible without burning my bread. And this goes fantastic with butter and jam. It is simply delicious and irresistible. And there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and share this video with others. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time and have a wonderful and very blessed day.